But Anthony Davis is hurt a lot.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's
is it a conditioning thing? Is
that's
it
why it's
just
not hurt. It's not
bad
working.
luck? I mean, I know he doesn't set out to be hurt. I know that's not his life goal. But man, he's just every year, it
Mhm.
seems it's something.
On today's Wind Up Wednesday edition of the Yacht Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis discuss the rise of NBA injuries, roster management in college basketball, as well as preview the upcoming week in college and pro basketball. Welcome to today's show.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is my tag team partner. And as I look at these injuries after injuries, I'm thinking about one of the most injured tag teams in the history of the world. You are the Dynamite Kid to my Davey Boy Smith and the British Bulldogs, because Dynamite was always broke up. And we're going to talk about some broke up players. The icon, the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here, Coach Mike Francis. And Coach, how you doing, sir?
I am doing well, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. So segment one, we're going to hit the NBA. Segment two, we're going to talk about college basketball roster struggles. And in segment three, we're going to preview the next week. But let's jump into it. Man, Mike, what's going on with your Lakers, man? Just when they start to put some wins together, they started to run a few off. Lakers big man Anthony Davis suffered a right foot injury.
Oh my God.
He appeared to tweak his lower leg against Denver, and the MRI said he's just experiencing discomfort, but there's hope he didn't suffer anything severe. Man, what's going on with the Lakers, man? Talk to me.
Man, we said earlier about all these. We talked earlier about how they having these experiments that ain't working, and this is one of them. This is not working.
But Anthony Davis is hurt a lot.
Yeah, and that's,
I mean, is it a conditioning thing? Is
that's
it
why
just
it's not hurt.
bad luck? I mean, I know he doesn't set out to be hurt. I know that's not his life goal. But man, he's just every year, it seems it's something, just something. And can't stay healthy.
Can't stay healthy at all, man.
All right. So we're going to move on to Golden State. And again, Golden State starting to run off some wins. And Steph Curry suffers a left shoulder subluxation. And he hopes that because it's the first time he has this injury, it's going to be a quicker recovery time. So we're always looking for injury comps. Dwayne Wade had the injury in 2008 because it's similar to a dislocated shoulder, similar to it. And he missed 23 games. The Warriors have 20 games between now and February 1st. The Warriors are still under 500 at the time of this taping. And they've just logged a lot of minutes with this starting five. And man, good luck with that, because you know the Warriors have had some problems with their bench play, as we've talked about in previous weeks. Next man up. What do you think about Golden State, man? Can't give Clay more minutes. Can't do that.
No, you can't do that. I think Golden State is they're struggling right now. Like when I think of the finals and I think of teams out west, Golden State to me has fell back a little bit when it comes to the better teams. They're not in that top tier team anymore, to me.
Yeah, no, and I'm 100% in agreement with you. And Andrew Wiggins has to play a different role now. Draymond's got to be more offensive minded, and he's on the decline. You got the Wiseman kid getting G League minutes, and that's not a bad thing. That's just needed to get him reps.
Felt like they've been going downhill ever since this incident.
Notice I skipped Jordan Poole.
Yeah, you can't. Nah, man, you can't do that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. This is a story you'll appreciate. Pat Riley is still being Pat Riley. The Miami Heat listed all 16 of their players on the injury report ahead of their game last week against the San Antonio Spurs. This came just hours after the Heat were fined $25,000 by the NBA for violating the league's injury reporting rules. According to the league's news release, the Heat failed to disclose an accurate game ability status for several players prior to its game against Oklahoma City. Against the Thunder, Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, Jamal Cain, Omir Yusavin, and Nikola Jovic, not Jokic, were listed as out on the injury report and then came out prior to the game. However, Dwayne Dedman, Tyler Hero, Max Strauss, Duncan Robinson, and Victor Oladipo were listed as either questionable and probable, and all five played in the game. Miami didn't update those player statuses, so Miami said, "Screw it." Pat Riley, being Pat Riley, everybody's hurt. So there.
Yeah,
You want to
fuck
play
y'all.
with me?
Yeah.
If you want to play with me, there you go. That is the most Pat Riley thing I've heard in a long time. Mike, any thoughts about Pat still being Pat?
Hey, he ain't changing for nobody, but he's successful. He's doing what he's supposed to do.
All right. So, Mike,
If I send you that injury report every week, what you gonna say?
they're injured.
What can you say?
So everybody's beat up.
Yep, we all hurt.
So, Mike, real life is real. Tyrell Terry, a guard selected by the Dallas Mavericks with the 31st overall pick in the 2020 draft, cited overwhelming anxiety in an Instagram post when he announced his retirement from the game. He said, and I quote, "I decided to let go of the game that has formed a large part of my identity, something that has guided my path since I took my first steps. And while I've achieved amazing accomplishments, created unforgettable memories, and made lifelong friends, I've also experienced the darkest times of my life to the point where instead of building me up, it began to destroy me." He's 22, Mike, and he scored 13 points in 13 NBA games. He was drafted after one season at Stanford, where he earned all Pac-12 all freshman honors. He took a leave of absence for personal reasons. Any thoughts on this before I chime in?
Not at all, but it is, unfortunately, he needs to seek the help that'll help him become better off the court, off the court, more importantly.
So I have done a lot of studying on this, and athletic identity is a big part of who people are who play sports, or if you're music, most people are known for whatever in their day-to-day lives. If you're a high school student athlete, most of the time people talk to you about the athletic piece. I've told you privately, and I think I mentioned it on the show publicly, it's not a secret. I had a chance to meet Ricky Williams one year at the Black Student Athlete Summit, which is a phenomenal event. If you have a chance, fans, if you're interested in that, go to it. And Ricky Williams said he was 27 years old before somebody complimented him other than for being an athlete. And he was in the Australian outback when somebody had mentioned something he said in the conversation and said, "That was really smart. That was an interesting take or insightful or whatever." And man, when he said that to me, that just kind of resonated, because you travel from team to team, you play the sport, you invest in it, and what do you get out of it? I often say, what do you get out of it? So for this young man to recognize at 22 that this is not it for him, despite disappointment from outsiders, man, forget them. Be true to yourself, to thy own self be true. So I hope he finds whatever joy, because once you stop playing sports, and you see this in professional athletes, you see it in college athletes, heck, you see it in high school athletes, that's all you've ever done. You got practice games, off-season prep. Tom Brady, in part, I'm sure, got a divorce because he saw what life was like after the lights, and I don't like that. I don't like. So, that's real stuff. And again, fans, you got to be aware. Players, you got to be aware. Parents, be aware that there's what else do you do? Yes, invest, but to quote the book, we've got to find a better balance. And maybe if earlier on he found that balance, that would be better. But he made a choice for him. We support that choice. But it was time to have that conversation. So we want to close this segment congratulating CP3. Chris Paul is now a college graduate, Mike. The Phoenix Sun guard graduated from Winston-Salem State University. He earned a bachelor's degree in mass communications. He originally attended Wake Forest, entered the draft as a sophomore. Winston-Salem is a HBCU, a historically Black college university. And at the beginning of the graduation ceremony, this is what needs to be talked about. Paul got a rousing applause when it was announced that he is funding a bank account from a Black-owned bank for each graduate, and he's putting $2,500 bucks in their account to start them off for the graduates. So that's
$2,500 for each.
$2,500 for each graduate of the graduating class at the Black-owned bank.
That is great. That is great.
So I think we should end segment one with that. Chris, I graduated a couple of times, and if you want to help me out, feel free. But seriously, folks, we appreciate that, and congratulations on your graduation. And we'll be back. Segment two, we'll talk about things that are going on in college basketball in terms of, we got some roster problems. We'll be back on the iCoaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast in segment two. I want to talk about college basketball roster struggles, but we want to open up our college segment paying respect. Louis Orr, a star forward for Syracuse who played in the NBA before a lengthy coaching career, passed away at 64 due to pancreatic cancer. His last position was special assistant to Patrick Ewing at Georgetown. As a player, he helped Syracuse make 4 NCAA tournaments from 76 to 80, played in the inaugural season of the Big East. So again, I've had the pleasure of being in this company over the years as coach, and we wish his family all the best. Coach, have you bumped into Louis Orr throughout your career at any point?
A couple times, a couple clinics, a camp, definitely the camps when I worked hoop group when I was commissioned. Of course, when I worked hoop group when we was at the college in New Jersey, he was always there. So I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times. So.
Yeah, he was at Seton Hall at that time.
Right.
As soon as you said that, yes. He was Seton Hall around the time of Fowler's recruitment. And some of the Big East schools were looking at Fowler. But he was always a very classy gentleman. And
yes, sir.
Again, we send our best.
Yep.
All right, so new school punishments. The NCAA announced penalties for the Memphis men's basketball program in a case that highlights its new approach to resolving infractions, Mike. The NCAA said it isn't backing away from enforcing rules and imposing penalties, but after criticism that it was slow, they've come up with a new protocol. So in the Memphis case, the sides agreed to resolve the recruiting violations within the program. The school will begin serving penalties while one individual tied to the case will go to a hearing and see if their portion of the charges can get dropped. So this marks the second time that the NCAA has used what is called a split case resolution following an agreement with Air Force in September regarding a football recruiting violation. So the NCAA adopted these reforms designed to modernize the infraction process. Those who are officially set to go in place in January, but were used for the first time with Air Force in Memphis. So here's the old way they used to do stuff. The traditional course of infractions tended to follow an endless series of steps: 90 days to respond to allegation, 60 days for the enforcement staff to respond, back and forth. And that was a criticism of cases that I did research on during my doctoral process, including the Syracuse academic violations and the North Carolina sham classes. Okay. And I'll talk off air about that. The new way, this enhanced requirement for schools to cooperate, because a lot of times schools wouldn't cooperate and that would extend everything. The Memphis penalties include a year of probation added to the 3 years already enforced. There are also restrictions for 2 fewer recruiting visits. So that's the new way to do it. Streamline, and if an individual has a problem, they can deal with them separately. Mike, is this good, bad, or it's going to be business as usual?
It just strikes me as the two schools that they're using this on, Air Force and Memphis. Like, you just overlook North Carolina, Kansas. Like, Kansas was under investigation all the year they won the national championship, right?
Yeah.
Are we overlooking that? Are we not
Well,
looking
they
at Kansas?
quietly solved that. And remember, Bill Self served the 4-game suspension, and then he was
Against
able
Outback
to
University, Podunk University,
and they started
three
he
priests
could
in
coach
2 months.
during the Bahamas tournament. I think that was the first game that okay. he
It's crazy.
applesauce me radio podcast listeners.
It
All
is.
right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't like it. I mean, I can understand doing it and splitting the case because you might have a guy out there doing his own thing and the head coach don't know nothing about it.
Mhm.
That's the thing. You don't know everything your assistants are doing.
Oh, you do
You
not.
don't
And
know
you
the
just hope
relationships
so.
they have, the people they talk to. You're just concerned about them getting players and helping with game planning and practicing. You don't know what's going on.
Okay. So, Mike, did the NCAA get it right? The NCAA has denied a waiver for immediate eligibility for guard Jose Perez at West Virginia, Coach Huggins announced. He's a 6'5" transfer from Manhattan. And if you recall, Mike, at the start of the season, Manhattan fired Steve Mazzello 2 weeks before the start of the season. Perez then enrolled at West Virginia in November for the spring semester. Huggins said West Virginia plans to appeal. Perez is eligible to start practicing on December 17th. Before transferring, Perez was chosen as preseason player of the year for the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAC, the MAAC. He averaged close to 19 points a game. In a statement given to ESPN, Manhattan said it handled its side of the Perez transfer paperwork in a timely manner. Perez spent 2 seasons at Gardner-Webb and 1 season each at Marquette and Manhattan. On Twitter, Perez says, "I did nothing but put my blood, sweat, and tears into that college place.
Which
was
one?
home. Stop it. And due to them firing a coach who took me in like a son, I just got no words, not going to say much." So, Mike, should the NCAA have denied this waiver? What do you think?
No. The kid didn't do anything wrong. He didn't commit any violations. He's allowed to transfer.
Well,
As long as we allow coaches to leave mid-season or leave whenever to go get better jobs, players should be able to do the same thing. If you want to restrict the players, restrict the coaches. And we're not going to do that. because the coaches bring in more money for the NCAA. So they're not going to do that.
Oh, I think it may be some paperwork issues. I'm speculating he did enroll in West Virginia in November for the spring semester. So
And what's wrong with that?
I'm just
I just registered for my grad classes this December.
I have no issue with that as long as the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
So why are we doing, again, this is double standard. If regular students or anyone can do it, why can't he do it? We want kids, it's just education. They're just like any normal student. I just registered for my grad class on Wednesday. It starts January, second semester, February, excuse me.
Yeah, and they gave you your ID and you should be able to go to the bookstore. So you should be a student there and your classes start at insert time. So if you're a part of extracurricular activities, you're a student there. Yes.
But double standard for athletes. That's my point.
Yeah. All right. So Mike, did I miss something? Because it caught me early, but I didn't pay attention until now. Louisville's terrible. Louisville is like bad. Like they were like 0-9. And when I heard that they won their first game beating Western Kentucky to give Kenny Payne his first win, I said, what do you mean their first win? So I started digging a little deeper and I found out that they were not as active in the portal as other schools. So
at all.
Let me give you a little bit of info. At Kansas State, Jerome Tang, new coach, saw 10 players leave and he brought several from the portal. Chris James at Mississippi State watched 6 people leave, came back with 5 new ones. Missouri had 8 players hit the portal. And the new coach signed 6 Division I and 2 junior college transfers. LSU had their entire roster hit the portal at one point and ultimately reloaded with 10 newcomers. Louisville didn't. Despite 7 players leaving, new coach only landed 1 scholarship player from the portal. Okay. And the roster wasn't completely bare, but wow. Can you give me your thoughts on roster construction now in this new era of basketball?
You got to go through the portal. You got to have somebody on your staff that's committed to that portal and only that portal. You've got to evaluate, like, you go through a season and you evaluate what you need. You actually got to evaluate, like, maybe quarterly now. Like, I evaluate in the preseason. I evaluate after the early part of the season. I'm going to evaluate mid-season. And if we make a tournament or whatever, how that comes, we're going to continue to evaluate. But then have someone in that portal. This is our weakness. Who in the portal can do that? That's the way you got to do it.
Smart now. That's just smart.
Just have to.
And as we talk about on various shows, and we're going to go into much more detail as the years go on, you've got to change how you recruit.
Oh, you got
high school players, parents, and coaches have to understand that it is not going back to the pre-COVID traditional way. So you've got to find fit, because even as a college coach, I like the number 15 for a college roster. I've always liked that number. Now, whether you did or anybody else, because I want 3 5s. I want 3 groups of 5. And I'm a big believer that if you try to bring in a 5 every year, meaning a point guard, some wings, some interchangeable, whatever, and a big, you have your roster flexibility, and every year you should be able to compete. And that's the program aspect as opposed to the team aspect. People are trying to build teams and you're trying to build a program, and it's harder to build a program now with the fluidity that you have access to. So you have to really think fluid always. Man, looking at the Louisville situation, they can't have that happen again, because our local school, Georgetown, is having that issue. They just don't have any good players.
No.
And And whose fault is that? Well, you brought him in.
I think it was kind of caught in between, though. Can we say that, though?
You can say it,
Georgetown.
but they're getting drubbed. And
Okay.
the chatter, I
Okay.
haven't heard the Louisville chatter because I haven't paid attention until that. I mean, when that said Louisville's first win, and I'm like, it's December. What? So,
He said
you know.
it's December.
so we're going to keep an eye on this, fans. And, wow, man, this whole portal thing, you better change how you do business. And Mike is right. You better have somebody on your staff knowing who's in and who's out.
You
And
gotta
speaking of-
recruit your own players. That's what
All
it
the
is
time.
nowadays. You gotta recruit your own players.
because if you don't, they will leave.
Mhm.
And even if you do, they may leave. So
In a minute.
in a minute. Okay. So when we get back, we're going to preview the upcoming week in basketball, and we'll be right back on the Eye Coaches podcast.
Man, I'm so sorry.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project Academic Monitoring Service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. And in segment 3, it's all about the current week. It's about the week ahead. So, Mike, in the NBA, we're 30 games into an 81 game season. So we have completed about 37% of the season. So next week, we can start ranking. Because I think enough of the season has gone by that we can get a good top 5 now. And fans, that's how we do basketball. We can't just jump in with rankings. We got to see some people play. So in the Eastern Conference, top 3 hasn't changed. Boston, Bucks, Cavs, and it's not even close right now. They're moving ahead of everyone else. So in the middle 3, we've got the Heat, the Pacers, and the Hawks. But out of the Heat, Pacers, and Hawks, Mike, only the Heat are above 500 their last 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Okay. Y'all keep telling me them Hawks fans got excited about the bubble. And I'm like, you're not very good.
Your favorite team.
Not very good. And the bottom 3, Magic, Pistons, Hornets. But Mike, I didn't know this till now. The Wizards have lost 9 straight games. And the Magic have won 5 in a row. And the Magic are still 13th in the conference, and they won 5 in a row. So this is not good, man. Keep an eye on the Bucks, the Nets, the Knicks, and the Sixers, because they're playing well the last 10 games. Any thoughts on the Eastern Conference, sir?
Eastern Conference sucks. What do you want me to say? They suck. They literally suck.
Not good at all. Not good.
It sucks.
You got 3 teams, and everybody else is playing for 4.
They suck.
3 teams, everybody else is playing for 4. All right, the Western Conference, top 3, Memphis. Ja Morant got kicked out of a game, though. I don't know what he did.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with
I
that.
don't know with that, man. And I don't have 0.5 downstairs to, find that out. New Orleans is 2, and Zion's played in 23 games out of, what did I say at the start? Out of 30. All right, trending the right way.
Damn.
Trending the right way. There's always next week, as we say. And Denver's 3. Phoenix is right behind them. And Devin Booker just dropped damn near 60 last night.
He was an eyelash from 60.
He's spitting shoelace. And what's going on in Sacramento? Because they keep winning. Sacramento's doing some work. Mike Brown's got them going. The middle 3, Clippers, Jazz, and Mavericks. Minnesota and Golden State are right there, but Golden State just lost Steph. And then the bottom three, Oklahoma City, Spurs, and the Rockets. But Mike, the Lakers are 7.5 games out of first and 1 game out of 13th place.
You telling me for? Like,
He's 7.5 out of first and 1 game out of being 13th. And Oklahoma City's 13th. Keep an eye on New Orleans and Memphis. Any thoughts about the Western Conference?
Who is the leader out there? Like you don't know. The East is bad. The West is pretty good. It's just you got a lot of good teams in the West, I think, and it's going to be a long. Well, like you say, we're only 1/3 of the way through the season. I like to get through January, All-Star break, and then try to figure out who puts really a lot of consistency together.
Now, with the Christmas Day, Christmas Day games is kind of my, all right, here are the standings. Let's start ranking. So when we get back from our holiday break, we can have that conversation. Same thing in college. Now that we're almost through with the silly season and we're going to get into conference play, we're going to have a better idea. But for men's basketball, here are the teams to keep an eye on. And Mike, UMass Lowell is no longer a team to watch. I don't know what happened, but keep an eye on Fordham. UConn. I saw UConn play yesterday. UConn's a problem. Hey, a problem.
Really?
UConn is a problem, and they're going to be around all season. I haven't seen Purdue yet, but they're number 1 team in the country. I haven't seen them. Charleston, Florida Atlantic, New Mexico, Utah State, and Boise State. Dick Vitale mentioned that the Mountain West Conference is good, and he must be listening to the show. Arizona State, Bobby Hurley is no longer on the list. Them dudes is playing well, and I think you called that. Mm-hmm. American is on a nice winning streak, which includes a big win over the Georgetown Hoyas. So they're doing well. Mississippi State, hey, that's a good quad. I think Georgetown might be quad 3.
Georgetown ain't quad anything.
All right, on the women's side, keep an eye on Rhode Island. They keep winning. Virginia Tech, Kansas, Texas Tech, St. John's, Indiana, Ohio State. That Big Ten is tough in the women's game. Rice, Cleveland State, Utah, Arkansas, LSU, South Carolina, and Florida. Games of the week. Friday, December 23rd, the Clippers are playing the 76ers, and Memphis is playing Phoenix. I don't have school that day. I kind of want to just sit back and watch Memphis and Phoenix. So I think I'm just going to do that. And then no more games until Christmas Day. And that's we're having a special taping next week that we'll talk about shortly. Men's college basketball, Friday, December 23rd, Coppin State plays George Mason. It's a local game. I might ask our OCP team correspondent.
Where is that at?
That's at George Mason. And if you're around, we're going to talk to Fowler anyway.
That's Kimmy and Juan?
Yeah, it's Kimmy and Juan. Let's go up to Red Hot and Blue, enjoy some barbecue, and hang out at the Eagle Bank Arena.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens. This is an off-air thing.
Wow.
Friday, December 23rd for the women's side, Norfolk State is playing UNC Wilmington. Like to see if Norfolk State can beat a higher conference team because they had been steamrolling for a while. But fans, next week, we're going to air a special edition of the Odd Coaches podcast as we do a second State of Basketball year-end review. We did this in July before the season started, and now it's just a good time to revisit a lot of those topics and see if anything has changed. So, Mike, anything to add before we wrap up, sir?
Nah, not at all. I do want to see that game. I'd love to see Kimmy and Juan play against each other. I do want to do that.
Yeah. And we always like to support our locals, man.
Then as far as the holiday is concerned, wishing everybody a good holiday season as we move forward, and glad to see that at least we're entertained with this season so far. College basketball has been extremely entertaining so far.
Yes. I definitely agree. And on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. And we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.